Welcome to the second shiur in Torah Chaf, number 20, in the first section of Likutei Moharan. I'm going to be honest with you, I can't remember whether we are on letter Daled or Gimel, but Gimel is extremely short, so I think we'll start there, and then we'll move forward. And I apologize to everyone, I just walked in the door and came straight downstairs to give the shiur, so I'm a little less prepared than usual, less focused than usual, but we'll get going. Okay, let's remember that last time we started this beautiful Torah, and it started with a big paragraph from the Safra D'Sniusa talking about the holiness of the supernal beard and the different aspects of the beard hair. And then we said that there's a neshama in the world always that is the neshama through which all explanations of Torah come into the world, through this neshama. And that neshama has to experience some type of suffering. And that's always like this. Somehow, there's someone in the world who's this soul, and all explanations of Torah are drawn through that neshama into the world. Okay? And the words of this neshama are fiery eish, gagach la'eish, like fiery coals, and the words, because the words of the Torah of Hashem are haloi devarei ka'eish, Num Hashem, right? And when this neshama leaves the world, the explanations of the Torah leave the world. And when we don't have explanations of Torah in the world, when we don't have clarity, understandings on a deep level of our existence, then there's machlekes in the world, dispute, anger, argument in the world, right? Because if we all had, imagine, the world is a crazy place right now. There's a lot of war and machlekes going on right now. If everyone saw the universe with clarity, imagine if everyone in the world felt as if they just finished learning some deep Rabbi Nachman Torah. If everyone had that in their heart, right? The world would be a very different place, right? So we don't have clarity, and when there's no clarity, then there's anger, machlekes, fighting, because the clarity has left. So when that soul leaves, the clarity goes bye-bye, the explanations, deeper understandings go away, and argument and anger ensue. And so this neshama is represented in the Torah as Miriam HaNaviah, Miriam the prophetess. And she died in Midbar Tzin, which is the words for the cooling off of speech. Midbar Tzin means the desert of Tzin. But it also means Midbar is from the word Midaber, speech, and Tzin is from the word Tzarnin, to be cold. So when she passed away, the speech cooled off, and that source of Torah was gone from the world. And she, of course, her name means bitter, Miriam, right? Because this soul that is the source of all Torah explanations in the world has to suffer, right? So that's where her name comes from. And he said also that's the way why teachers of Torah are called morim, a mora, because it's from the word memresh for bitter, because there's some connection. They're drawing Torah explanations from this neshama that has to experience bitterness, right? That was Miriam HaNaviah. And when Miriam passed away, so we know Torah is compared to water, right? And the well of Miriam in the desert was what was there for, like we never thought about this before, right? Miriam's well that accompanied the Bnei Yisrael throughout the desert and gave water to everybody. Water is Torah. So on a deeper level, that well of Miriam was the foundation of Torah explanations in the world, Torah understanding in the world, right? So when she died, what dried up was her well. And we were left without water, without Torah, without explanations, right? So we then said that all of this explanations of Torah are drawn down from the aspect of leiv, of heart, the supernal heart, right? The heart that's up in the upper universes. And when that heart opens, the explanations, the Holy Torah comes down to us. And that heart is also called Sela, which means like a rock. Why? Because a rock, Sela, is also Tzur, which is rock. And we know in the Pasuk it says, Tzur Levavi. Tzur Levavi, the rock of my heart, the Tzur of my heart. So this heart, upstairs in the upper realms, which, when it gets aroused, it sends down this very deep spiritual clarity, understanding, is called Levavi, it's called Lev, and it's also called Tzur, rock, and Sela. Right? And we said that so how does it happen? It's when the heart is stirred with rachamim, it inspires these words, diburim chamim, passionate words, and that's what comes down. So through our own, when we make our words full of passion, we heat up our words. How do we do that? We're doing it right now. We're using our diburim, our words, for Torah. We're heating them up, right? How else do we do it? Through davening, through prayer. When we heat up our words, we talk to the Ribono Shel Olam, right? How else do we do it? Say nice things to other Yidden. Encourage people. Talk about good stuff. Lift people up, right? These are diburim chamim. These are hot words. And when we heat up our lives with these words, we arouse that upper heart. And then what comes down to us through those hot words is spiritual clarity. Right? This is not the first time we've seen this, by the way. The importance of our holy speech. Just in the last Torah we had this, right? Holy speech is so important. When we engage in holy speech, what he's saying, what Rabbi Nachman is teaching us now, is that we're drawing down tremendous spiritual clarity and wisdom onto ourselves. Okay, you with me? Very important. Okay, so now we'll just start at Gimel on page 202, even though we might have done this. But it's important. Here, 1 second. Yeah. So the last thing we said before Gimel, we said anyone who is, his words are over here. 1 second. Someone who is a Torah explainer. Someone who is bringing down understandings, these deep understandings. So how are they able to teach this wisdom? How can they bring down these deep understandings and give it over to the people they're giving over to? They have to first pray, daven to Hashem, before they give over their shiur. Before they're bringing down this tremendous wisdom, that person who's the Talmud Chacham, who's giving over the shiur, has to daven, please Hashem, daven, give me the ability to understand and to give over and to give clarity and to, you have to heat up the words. Thank Hashem for everything He's given and daven that the words should penetrate and that the understandings should be complete. They should go into the heart of the people that the person is teaching. And they should bring happiness and goodness and inspiration, all these things the person has to pray for. And when the person prays for these things, he arouses the upper heart, the upper lave and tzur, the upper rock, the upper heart, to shower down the wisdom that's going to come through that magid shiur and go into the hearts and the intellect of those people that he or she is giving it over to. Right? That's the last thing. So now, Menachem takes it to one level next. This is an awesome concept. I can't remember whether we did it last time or not, but well, let's go. Gimel, page 202 in this book. There's a difference between when someone is giving over an explanation of Torah to himself, compared to an explanation that the person gives over to the public, to a group of people. What's the story? Because when someone darshans in the rabbim, when someone is giving over Torah understandings to a group of people, to the public, and before this person starts to teach, to give over, he binds himself to the neshamas, to the souls of those people listening. And then he pours out his words, his davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bavadai, no question. Hein kel kabir lo yimas. Hashem is great. Kel kabir. By the way, it just occurred to me that kel kabir, listen to this. This is a mamish, a side note. A real tangent over here. Look at the words kel, like the word first name Hashem, El, Aleph Lamed. The second word is kabir, which means great, strong, great. Right? Those are the same shorashim, the same roots as what our Muslim brothers say, Allahu Akbar. Chaf Beis Reish, Kabir, Kabar, and the name that they use for God. By the way, we could say that. That's saying God is great, right? It's the same name, Aleph Lamed, as our name for Hashem, just with a hey on the end. It's the same words. Interesting, no? Okay, sorry. That's my bouncing back and forth from ideas. In any case, for sure, when someone is going to give over a deep Torah understandings, and they do these two things, they're mekasher themselves to the souls of all the people that are learning from this person, and they daven to Hashem to be able to receive wisdom and to be able to transmit that wisdom into the hearts and the intellect of those people listening. Hashem is great, and He's going to be happy. He despises not for sure. This is going to be a big. Hashem's going to love it. Aval tefillas yachid, efshar shemoyasin b'tefillas. But if it's just one person who's davening for themselves, it's possible that it could be despised by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Meaning that an individual is an individual. And this concept comes up a lot, by the way, in different places, in different Hasidic understandings. The Noam Elimelech speaks about this a lot. But the idea being that when you're an individual, any judgments against you, any negative forces against you are there. Why? Because you're saying, I'm me. I'm an individual. I'm me. Right? And so they're saying, yeah, you're you, we see you. The negative forces are on you. But once a person sort of is mevatel themselves to Klal Yisrael, a person sort of nullifies themselves to a greater group and says, it's not about me. Right? I'm here for this whole chevra, the whole group. Or I'm here for all of Klal Yisrael. Right? And I sort of give up my own existence for the greater good of the collective soul of Klal Yisrael. In a certain sense, my individuality is not there anymore. And there's nothing for negative forces to attach to. Right? There's nothing for the dinim, judgments, negative forces to go on. Because I've given myself up for the bigger picture. You understand? It's a fantastic idea. And this is kind of what he's saying over here. So, if I'm an individual, and I'm saying, Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, please give me the wisdom to understand this Torah, then maybe the forces, the Mekatrigim, the Satan's going to look and say, oh, yeah, sure you want to understand. Because you, Shimon, you have a little bit of an ego. And you want to understand so that you can build yourself, we know you. Right? So there's going to be some dinim. Maybe that tefillah will not be so pure and so accepted. But if someone comes as part of a rabbim, part of a whole tzibur, a whole group, and davens for the same thing, then the focus is not on that individual, rather on the whole Klal Yisrael, on a whole group. Right? And Hashem never despises such a tefillah. Right? That's always very precious to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So, this is what the Torah teacher has to do. This is what the person has to do. They have to be makasher themselves to all the people that they're learning with. And then they have to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if they makasher themselves first, they make that binding to everybody. And then they daven, the fireworks are going to go off. Right? Okay, here we go. This is what it said by Moshe Rabbeinu. By Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem said to him, speak to the rock, le'einehem, in front of them, like together with them. That the time when you daven, when you speak to the tzur, what's the sela, the rock, is the heart, the upper heart. When you use your speech to wake up the supernal heart and to cause that spiritual clarity to descend onto you, do it at the time when you're surrounded by people, when you're le'einehem, when the tzibur, the whole group is together. Because when you bind yourself to that group and then you pray, that's when there's going to be power. V'zeh hakel es ha'am. And that's why Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay, I hope everybody follows the timeline where we're going here. Miriam is the neshama that is the source of Torah explanation in the world. And her rock that's giving forth water, the water is a reference to Torah. All the Torah is in her merit, Miriam's merit. And it's coming from her, the water is flowing from her rock, Miriam's well. We come to Midbar Tzin, the desert of Tzin, which is Midaber, speech, Tzin, cold, when her speech cools off and she dies in Midbar Tzin, right? The water stops flowing. The Torah explanations are gone. There's no more source for Torah explanations in the world. Right away, Machlokes, and the whole nation starts freaking out and getting angry and complaining, right? This is what happens in the whole story. Right then, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, what does he say? The first thing he says, Hakel es ha'am. Gather together all of the people. Gather together the nation. The first step is bring everybody together. Meaning, in what Rabbi Nachman told us, don't do this on your own. Don't daven for Torah, clarity, spiritual clarity, wisdom on your own. Hakel es ha'am, that's the first thing. Get everybody together. And from that place of binding everybody together, now you daven to Hashem. Now you use your hot words, your diburim chamim, and you pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give wisdom through you, Moshe Rabbeinu, to everybody in the whole tzibur. Right? That's what you got to do. So that's what Hashem said to Moshe. Everybody with me on the timeline over here? Yeah? Okay, Dalet. V'zeu achiluk ben halemed mitoich hasefer. We're going on now to another idea, and we're going to come back to this thing with Moshe Rabbeinu. V'zeu achiluk ben halemed mitoich hasefer. This is the difference between someone who is learning from a book, a sefer, and someone who hears from the mouth of the Chacham himself, of the wise person who's giving over the shiur himself. Because the person who hears from the mouth of the Chacham himself, for sure, you know what happened? That Chacham bound himself to the soul of that person who's sitting there before he started bringing down this wisdom. So this person who's listening now is connecting on a deep level to that Talmid Chacham who is drawing down this wisdom from the supernal heart. And now, listen to this. That person who's sitting and listening has a portion in the Torah that the person is saying over. Meaning what? It's because that person came to the shiur. That the Chacham was able to bind himself to that person and daven, and in the merit of that person's soul that has been connected, the Torah explanations are going to come down. Meaning if the person didn't come face to face to the shiur, that same level of Torah would not have been revealed. So everybody who comes to the shiur is giving a portion of the ability to draw wisdom down into the world. You hear that? That is totally amazing and awesome. Totally amazing and awesome. Right? And you know, this comes down all the way to our shiurim even. You know, like really, you know, Rabbi Nachman is talking about big tzaddikim, but as we always say in the Torah of Rabbi Nachman, that it applies to everyone on their own level. And I'll tell you something. You know, I may not be a big tzaddik and a huge Talmid Chacham, But I'll tell you something very interesting. And I know this, I feel this within my own heart. I very much am a person who must connect on a deep level to the people that I learn with. And I have to think about our relationships, and I have to be part of it. And I know for sure that when people are in the shiur, and I see these people, and I know they're there, I know for sure that more Torah comes, more ideas flow, more stuff comes into the world, right? Than if I was just sitting by myself, or if I was sitting with, one-on-one with somebody. We have such a power of all these neshamas together that we're all drawing down this wisdom into the world. It's totally amazing, completely amazing. And what a schus that we are all part of something together. It's totally amazing. Okay, can I say totally amazing one more time in this shiur? Okay, ki al yedei hatefilla nitosev kedusha lamala, because it's through the prayer that we add on some aspect of kedusha, of holiness, upstairs. V'chol tefilla hayotzes meharbe neshamas, and any tefillah that comes through many neshamas, many souls together, it adds on more kedusha in those upper realms, and to a greater extent arouses the heart, the supernal heart in the upper realms. And then that heart, the heart of the Shekhinah that's upstairs, that becomes aroused, will pour forth so much more wisdom, Torah explanation, because of all the people coming together, right? I was telling this idea over to someone recently, and this person who I was telling it to happens to be very, like many people that I know are, and like I am myself, happen to be very, very done with COVID restrictions, and was saying, see, this is a thing saying that we have to be in person. We got to come back to in-person learning, right? And I have to say, I might disagree a little bit here, because in-person learning is great. Trust me, it would be fantastic if everybody came in person. Okay, but Rabbi Nachman didn't have Zoom, and while I don't like the fact that the world has gone to so much Zoom, I have to say people are able to hook in when they might not have been able to come otherwise. Sandra's in her car right now, right? She wouldn't be able to be here, and people are in their houses, and Altar's way down south. It takes them like an hour to get here, right? And people are able to tune in from around different places in the world, even And we can come together, and we can still see each other, and we can still have this connection. And I think there's something very special about it. I think we're still experiencing what Rabbi Nachman is talking about in this Torah through this platform, right? I think we should be very thankful for it, to be honest. Okay, yes, maybe if we were all together in person, it might be stronger and better. But Baruch Hashem, we have this ability to connect in this way. Okay, rant over. Let's go weiter. Hakol lefi roiv ha'anashim. It all goes according to the amount of the people. V'chein yoser kedusha asoi. More holiness will come from more Jewish neshamas coming together. V'chinas ve'ata kadosh yoshev tilos Yisrael. But we say this pasuk. We say this in our tefillas, particularly in the Kedusha de Sidra, which we say in different times. Ata kadosh yoshev tilos Yisrael. You are holy, Hashem. Yoshev, who rests on, dwells on the praises of Yisrael. Meaning, the Kedusha goes up to Hashem, Kiviyachol, through our tehillas, through our prayers and our praises to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ayadei tehillas Yisrael, nitosev Kedusha asai. Through our prayers, His Kedusha increases. Gam, kol elo anashim. It's also something we have to think about, by the way, very important, is that is that we have to remember that our prayers, our tefillas, are making things happen upstairs. Right? Sometimes we think, I'm davening for this thing, and it's not coming to me. It's not happening. We're going to get into this a little later on in this Torah also. Why is it taking so long? Why do I have to keep going through this? Why do I have to ask, why did Hashem make it this way? Right? We're going to talk about this later on. Not now. But what we see over here is that even though we don't daven and we don't say, okay, Hashem, I need like a big parnasa, so I need a raise. I need to make, $20,000 a month starting tomorrow. It doesn't just happen tomorrow, right? But something does happen. Every time we daven to Hashem, we're increasing Kedusha upstairs, and that, to whatever extent we're together with other people, and to whatever extent we're using our diburim chamim, our hot words, right? We're making Kedusha happen up there, and when Kedusha happens up there, then stuff gets sent down here, to some extent. So something's happening. We, Avata Kadosh Yoshev Tehillah Yisrael. Hashem, the Kadosh aspect of Hashem, is built by the Tehillah Yisrael. Is what it says over there. Okay, V'gam Kol Elu Hanoshim Ha'omdim B'Shas Hadrush, and also, awesome stuff. Everyone who's together around at the time of this drasha that's being given over, Nichna Rishasam Al Yedei HaToiv Shebechacham HaDeresh. Whatever aspect of them is in a negative state, whatever aspect of this person is sunken into some type of klipa, some type of negative existence, that aspect of them is going to be nichna, is going to be knocked down through the good of the chacham that's giving over the drasha. Right? So, interestingly, you must have, this is an awesome thing, I told this over a few times, but what's the word for like a congregation, a group of people? One word anyway, is tzibur. Right? How do you spell tzibur? Tzadi, Bez, Resh, or Vav Resh, right? So it's brought down that why is a tzibur called a tzibur like this? Because in every tzibur, you have tzadik is for tzadikim, Bez is for beinonim. Tzadikim are righteous people, beinonim are mid-ground people, and the Vav Resh is urashayim. And there's also not so great people in every group, right? And they're all an important part. There's no such thing as a tseb, right? Without the resh. A tzibur has to have everybody together. We're all one thing, right? So there's always going to be, and if you want to be dan l'chavschos like Rabbi Nachman will want us to, right? So what would we say? Okay, no one here is a Rasha, but maybe there's a little part of them that could use some work, right? Maybe we all have a little something about us that could use a little bit of fine tuning, right? Okay, so when we're part of this group, then whatever aspect of us needs to be a little fine tuning, it's going to be knocked down by the good that's in the chacham who's making the drasha. Lefi ha'achna kein nichnaim ha'oivim. And according to the level of the subduing, so too the oivim, the enemies, the negative forces will be subdued. Hainu aklipas hasheichnim sviv lev elyan. Meaning what? Meaning that when we experience this on our own, when we're learning together, when we're experiencing this type of thing, and some aspect of us gets a little bit fixed, gets knocked down, some negative aspect of us gets knocked down, not only does that happen here, but the klipos that are surrounding the supernal heart, the leva elyon, are also getting knocked down. So we're contributing to, with our learning together, with whenever we go to a shiur, we're contributing to removing the klipas from the heart of the Shekhinah. If we could say such a thing. What a sentence, right? Totally amazing. number 6 or 7 of Totally Amazing. Kein Niklaim Oivim, Hainu Aklipois Ashirklim B'Lev Elyon. V'Bechinas Zois Yerushalayim Samtiha B'Tzoich HaGoyim. Like this pasuk says, Yerushalayim is Samtiha B'Tzoich HaGoyim. It's surrounded by the nations, right? V'hi Leiv B'Bechinas Dabra Leiv Yerushalayim. So we know that we know very, very well that Yerushalayim is surrounded by a bunch of nations that want to destroy it, right? Always, it seems. And everybody knows the song that we sing after Tisha B'Av, Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, right? Dabru al Leiv Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is also called the heart. It's Leiv Yerushalayim. So just like Yerushalayim is a Leiv and it's surrounded by the enemies, so too, the heart of the Shechina, the Leiv HaElyon, is also surrounded by klipos. And we can help to knock them down. Mate, and this is also an aspect of the staff of Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? Not like his catering staff, like his stick, his secretary, and yeah. Okay, that's not even funny. Zebechinas Mate, Sha'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Moshe, Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Kach es matecha, take your stick, your staff, v'hakhel es ha'eda, and gather together the congregation. Gather everybody together. Mate ze bechinas memshelas v'koyach hatzadik shenaisa ayedei avodasoy. What does the staff mean? What does it signify? What's it all about? The staff represents the power of the tzaddik. And the power of the tzaddik to be able to accomplish things in the world. Right? Like we know, there's a few psukim, Yisrael mam shaloisav, right? We say in Hallel, the Jewish people have power to make things happen in the world. Right? Yisrael mam shaloisav. Also, we say tzaddik geyser, that a tzaddik makes a gezerah and Hashem is mekayim it. Sometimes a tzaddik can make a gezerah that in a certain way goes against what Hashem planned. Such is the power of a tzaddik, right? We know tzaddikim can make miracles happen. Tzaddikim can daven for us. Tzaddikim can make all kinds of crazy things happen, right? And so they have a power. And the mate, the staff, is sort of what signifies. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like the representation, physical manifestation of that power. And how does the tzaddik develop such power? Through his avodah. This power of the tzaddik was built through his avodah, through his Torah and mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim and davening and everything that he does to become a tzaddik. And it's through this power that he has, from his avodah, that he's able to smack down all of the enemies, all of the klipos, and all of those people that are listening to the shiur of the tzaddik, who are having their negative things knocked down. This is where it's coming from. Hein lamata, hein lamala. Both to the people listening, and both upstairs, the klipos that are surrounding the heart of the Shechina. Yeah? You with me? Okay. So that's the mata. That's the staff of Moshe. So there's a pasuk that says in Tehillim, Mate uzecha yishlach Hashem mitzion, the staff of your oiz, your power, your strength, Hashem will send from Tzion, from Zion, Redei bekerev oivecha, rule amongst your enemies. The staff of Hashem is sent from Tzion, from Zion, rule over your enemies. How do we understand this now? V'zehu, and this is what it means, Mate uzecha yishlach Hashem mitzion, the staff of your power, as Hashem will send from Tzion. Hainu ha-mitzvos u'maisim tovim. This is the mitzvos and maisim tovim of the tzaddik. Shehein tziunim l'devarim elyonim. That they are like tziunim, they're like signs, like a tziun, right? What does a tziun mean? Tziun, it means a sign. Like sometimes we use the word tziun, the tziun of Rabbi Nachman. That's like his grave, the place of his grave. The matzeva. Matzeva means like a pillar, like something that marks and shows this is where the grave is. It's called a tziun. So mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim are like a tziyun. They're like a sign of something that's going, of something very high. Shemehem nase mate oiz lahachnia oivim, because from them, and it's from them that this power comes to the tzaddik to be able to humble and to knock down the enemies, the evil forces. Right? Why are they a sign of something above? What does that mean? Right? I think what it means, I'm not 100% sure, but you know, we all know that the mitzvahs that we do are not just, you know, like, what do people say if you translate mitzvahs as good deeds? People make the mistake of thinking a good deed is like, you know, the classic statement of helping an old lady across the street. Right? Yeah, that's a good deed. And why is it a good deed? Because you do something and it's nice to someone else. It's a deed that you do that is good. Maybe it helps, right? That's true sometimes about mitzvahs. But that's not why we do mitzvahs. When we do mitzvahs here in this world, it's just like the tip of the iceberg. That action that we do in this world is taking place in all the other universes, and is making tikkunim, is causing broken spiritual existences to be repaired, is causing separated forces to come back together in the upper universes, right? So mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim, yeah, you know, sometimes they're really nice, right? Sometimes they're not so nice. Sometimes they're really nice though, right? You don't think about walking the lady across the street is a nice good deed, but what about you know, shechting a cow, slicing the neck of a cow, and then removing the fat that's on the liver of a cow? Like, that's not such a nice good deed, right? But it is. When any mitzvah that we do, it's causing spiritual reparations, tikkunim, to happen in the upper worlds. So the mitzvah that we do down here is a tziyun. It's a siman. It's a sign that something, it's just the tip of the iceberg, the sign showing that something else is happening in the upper realms also. You hear? So that's what this pasuk means. So, meaning the good things that the tzaddik does are just a sign of what's going on upstairs, of all these things that are happening upstairs, and it's from them, through his avodah, the mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim, the mitzvahs and good deeds, that's how his staff of power is built, is made. Lachnia oivim, to be able to knock down the negative spiritual forces. V'zeh, and that's what the second part of the pasuk says. Redei b'kerev oivecha, rule over amongst your enemies. Nimtza, comes out because of this. So this is what the power of the tzaddik is. The power has built up such a powerful spiritual existence that now, through that power, he can knock down negative spiritual forces that are surrounding us. Okay? Nimtza. Mishu etzel hachacham b'shas beurei haTorah, comes out that someone who is together with a chacham at the time when he's explaining Torah, nimtza shenichn hara shaloi, the ra in that person is going to be smacked down just from being together with that tzaddik. Vezehu, and this is what this other pasuk means. Beautiful song. Shivchi kamayim libech noichach penei Hashem. Beautiful song. Shivcha, it's a Karl Bach song. Shivcha, I'm not singing it. Shivchi kamayim libech, I will pour out your heart like water before the face of Hashem. Pour your heart out like water from the face of Hashem. This pasuk is from Eicha, right? Eicha Beis. Panei Hashem. So what's Panei Hashem? What's the face of Hashem? Bechinas beurei u'derushay haTorah. That's referring to the explanations and the drushas of the Torah. Why? Kamoi, like the pasuk says, v'hadarta panei zaken. Honor the face, the countenance of the sage, of the zaken, the elder. Zaken, ze hadras panim. That refers to the honor of the face, which is referring to what? V'heim shlosh esrei tikkunei dikna. Those are the 13 attributes of the beard that we spoke about way back at the beginning. And it's the 13 measures that the Torah is darshaned with. Okay, so everybody knows, right before Pesukei de Zimra, if we say Korbanos, we have this paragraph that we say, Rabbi Yishmael said, it's a quote from the Gemara, Shloish esrei midos haTorah nidreshes behen. There's 13 ways, attributes, that we use to darshan the Torah, to learn things out from the Torah. There's 13, the significance of this is totally amazing. There's 13 ways that we draw out the wisdom of the Torah. You with me? 13 ways that we draw out the wisdom of the Torah. The wisdom of the Torah is the way we connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And bring Hashem's wisdom. This is corresponding to what we said in the very beginning, the 13 attributes of the face, the beard, of the upper realms. Meaning what? The 13 ways that we pull out the Torah is the face of Hashem. The whole way that the beard goes around, I don't know if you remember, talked about starting at the forehead and going down, and the cheek apples, it was called, and the beard and the way it comes down and everything. It's talking about the face of a holy existence, and those 13 points on the face correspond to the 13 ways that we pull the wisdom out of the Torah. Why? Because the Torah, the wisdom of the Torah, is considered the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shifchi kamayim libech, pour out your heart like water. Neichach Pnei Hashem is the wisdom of the Torah. So what is it saying over here? V'zehu. One second. Pnei Hashem v'zehu vayiplu al pneihem, that they fell on their faces. So, and also Moshe and Aaron. One second. Yeah, here we go. Sorry, I missed a spot. You have to pour out your heart, pour out your words, before you draw down the wisdom of the Torah, which is the whole thing we've been saying so far, right? Pour out your heart like water. Why? Then you're going to receive the Pnei Hashem. What's the Pnei Hashem? It's 13. It's the 13 ways of the beard. It's the 13 ways that we pull wisdom out of the Torah. That's what it is. V'zehu, and this is what the pasuk says about Moshe and Aaron. It says, "Vayiplu al paneihem," they fell on their faces. Kishashamu hamariva, when they heard the argument, the machlokes that was going on, the quarrel that was happening amongst the Bnei Yisrael, they fell on their faces. Hevinu shayidei beurei Torah shehem bechinas panim. They knew that how is this going to be fixed is only through beurei haTorah. The reason there's machlokes, as we said, is when Miriam went bye-bye. And now there's no source of clarity. There's no source of wisdom in the world. So there's argument and misunderstanding. So they realize that we need to fix this. We need clarity. We need wisdom. We need beurei Torah. So they fell on their faces. Al shehem bechinas panim. Machmas hanefila. Machmas zeh hischam. It's because there was a nefila from the panim. The face had fell. There was no more face of Hashem in the world. There was no more clarity from the wisdom of Hashem, which is represented by the face of Hashem. That's why this big fight was happening. You everybody with me? Yeah? So this is in that space after Miriam died, before Moshe had his experience with the rock, which we're still going to get to. Okay? Let's see where we are here. One second. Okay, so here's what I'd like to do. Guys, we've only been 45 minutes right now, but I would like to stop it here, because the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to do this amazing section, starting at letter Hey, where we're going to discuss the famous question: what happened with Moshe Rabbeinu and the rock? This is like something that all the Mefarshim have tried to understand. And I think I told you at the beginning of the shiur last time that, like, it's a very, very difficult part of the Torah. Very hard to understand. And many of the explanations leave one feeling wanting for more. Right? So Rabbi Nachman has a very, very novel interpretation based on everything that we said so far of how to understand what actually happened there. So I don't want to start it a little bit now and leave in the middle. So we'll finish up now after this 45 minutes. And next, on Wednesday coming up, is it Purim Wednesday next week? Might be Purim. Okay, so 2 Wednesdays from now, we'll come back and we'll start and we'll take everything that we learned and we'll begin to understand the next section of this Torah, which is understanding Moshe Rabbeinu's relationship with that incident at the rock. And then there's more after that, still. Okay, any questions or comments, or, we theoretically have an extra 15 minutes. Anyone want to talk about anything? Yeah, Sandra. 1 second, my volume's down or something.
About,
yeah.
The arrogance. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about the arrogance when we're asking, if we individually ask for clarity, let's say, or wisdom. But when you're doing your walk, your hisbadut, that's often the time, like, I'll ask God for clarity and wisdom for certain situations.
Yeah.
Is there a difference of when we do it?
Yeah. So listen, it doesn't have to be that there's arrogance. It doesn't have to be. But if there is arrogance, then when a person is alone, then it's going to be the negative forces are gonna jump on it, right? Whereas if it's a group, that you don't have that individuality for the negative forces to attach to, right? That's one thing. It doesn't mean that you for sure have arrogance. It's that if you have arrogance and you're just you, then the lights are shining on you, right? They're watching you closely, the negative forces. You with me? But it doesn't mean that you have arrogance. If you don't have arrogance, that's good, and you're talking to Hashem. It's fantastic, right? But when you are attaching yourself to a rabbim, to a tzibur, right? Then the focus is no longer directly on your individual nature, right? You're sort of part of a bigger picture. So, and there's a number of questions that come up similarly to what you just said, Sandra, which are important, because we're going to get to another aspect later where this will resurface, which is, when is the right time to really push for something, to ask for something, to demand something, let's say, and when is the time to be more humble? And maybe to not push and ask and demand something from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Because we know that we're going to see later on, this is going to come up, and Rabbi Nachman is going to talk about the importance of not pushing ahead too fast, which is a great topic that we're going to speak about later, right? Very great topic. On the other hand, Rabbi Nachman also says, and we saw this in one of the first Torahs in the Likutei Moharan, that a person has to be an action gadol in order to achieve holiness. Meaning, a person has to be extremely stubborn. Someone has to be unrelenting and stubborn in their avodas Hashem. So there's a line somewhere in there, right? There's something that we have to figure out. And I think we're going to talk about it more, probably not next class, but the following one, when we get to that section. But I think what it's going to come down to is the importance of really sort of focusing on the princess and not the 6 sons. For those of you who are in the Lost Princess group, you'll have some understanding of what that means. And really being ultimately, totally emistic, truthful, and authentic in our relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? Why do I say that? Because there's no fooling Hashem. Right? There's no fooling Hashem. There's no purpose to put on a show for Hashem. If we can just be as comfortable and truthful and authentic when we talk to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then we don't have to worry about this, right? Then I'm not coming from a place of ego. I'm really expressing. I'm trying to understand myself. I'm trying to understand who I really am. I'm trying to understand where my desires come from. Why am I asking for these things? Where are they coming from, right? If I'm really trying to be truthful and authentic, then I'll get there. I'll get to those places of truth. And my prayer will not be one of ego. Right? Does that make sense a little bit? Yeah. So stick with me for another few weeks. Don't go away after that, but stick with me for another few weeks, and we'll get to this section where we'll talk about this in more depth also. Yeah? Alyssa?
Thank you for having the class. You're amazing.
Thanks
but I want
for
to
coming.
ask, you're talking about all the powers that we have to bring down the evil, and so why don't we get them together and go for it?
I think that's what we're doing right now.
Well, how about quicker?
Okay. So seriously, please, also, stick with me for another couple of weeks. We're going to really speak about this very, very Inyan in another couple of weeks. And just like I'm going to say, wait till we get there.
Oh, I think we need it now.
So, okay, just remember those words when we get to that spot, okay?
Okay, well.